Welcome back to Twin Tarot. I'm David.
I'm Gary.
And today we're going to read about...
the energy on the Republican National Convention.
It's going to be a blackout!
So, the Republican National Convention is going to happen on July 15th. And we all know that...
Republicans get along really well
they're
these
not
days.
divided at all.
They see eye to eye on everything.
So, Nikki Haley's kind of kept her hat in the ring, hoping that maybe there's something that's going to happen with Trump that would allow her to sort of sneak in and take over the Republican nomination.
Now, mind you, she wouldn't have admitted to that, but it makes sense, right?
Oh, well, so it's the potential to be a real hillbilly brawl at the Republican National Convention this year.
And you think about it. She was getting the tar beat out of her, basically 60-40 on a good day against Trump. And so she pulled out of the campaign, but she didn't get rid of her money and she didn't get rid of her donors. Nope. She paused her campaign. She didn't quit it. She paused it.
Yeah, because if she ends up securing the nomination, she needs that money that she would have otherwise spent in the primaries for her actual election run.
And I did readings on it, and I could see where Trump wanted... He was going to offer her the VP-ship, but he wanted all her money. He didn't want her as VP. He wanted her money. And that would be a path for her to get to the White House. Because if Trump gets elected and then gets 25th Amendmented out for one reason or another, she'd be president of the United States. The other path is, go ahead and suspend your campaign. Trump had the New York criminal trial that was coming up, and as well as the civil trial. So he lost the criminal trial. Now he's a 34-time convicted felon going into the RNC, and maybe the RNC would decide that they'd rather not nominate the 34-time convicted felon as their nominee, in which case there's Nikki Haley saying, oh, well, you can pick me. I'd say yes. And then she's got her war chest still. She hasn't gotten beaten up in the primaries. She's not going to be called Bird Brain anymore.
Yeah, and she's also a lot more appealing to moderate Republicans than independents.
But basically, the 10% or so of the GOP members who absolutely would not vote for Trump would vote for Nikki Haley. Yeah. So Trump actually would get less votes than Nikki Haley would get because Trump doesn't automatically get all the GOP votes.
Yeah, that's assumed, of course, that MAGA would throw their weight behind.
Yeah, that assumes MAGA shows up to vote, which they may not. So it could be an even split either way. And now the other benefit is watching Trump basically melt down in a dementia-like state. He's just mentally diminishing. The Shrinking of Donald Trump, I believe, is the podcast. You're just watching him spiral downward with crazier and crazier stuff all the time. And not only is she counting on delegates not wanting to vote for a felon, but a felon who's clearly in mental distress.
Yeah, his best days are way behind him.
So
he was just having a meeting with a bunch of business CEOs. Leaders, and the feedback from the CEOs was not positive. Basically, he couldn't stay on point. He had no platform to speak of, no plan on how he was going to execute on his campaign promises. They went into this meeting really wanting to support him because he's good for business, and they left the meeting thinking, no, this is not happening.
Yeah, with CEOs, you better have a plan, and that's the one thing Donald Trump never has is a plan. I read something that he wanted to lower the corporate tax rate from 21% to 20%. And when asked why he chose 20% as a number, he said it was a nice round number. There's a lot of calculus and analysis going into that.
Yeah, he could have chose 15%. That's a nice round number too.
Or 10,
Yeah, 10
zeros.
10 is so much easier to calculate.
Yes, you have or 0. 0 is as round as they get.
Yes, exactly. 0.
Okay, so what looks like is going to happen here is that you've got there's probably a lot of bad blood running right now in the RNC. Mm-hmm. You've got traditional conservatives and you've got the Freedom Caucus MAGA extremists. Yep. And they're about to be locked in a conference room for a few days there, trying to figure out who's going to be their presidential candidate.
Yep.
Are we going to have a repeat of the 1968 Democratic National Convention?
You know what's kind of funny about that, or somewhat of an ironic twist, is that the MAGA folks are the ones that want to break all the rules, and they're the ones that are going to be arguing for tradition.
Yeah,
right. That traditionally we have nominated whoever got the most delegates, right?
Yeah.
And the conservative. Traditional Republicans who normally follow all the rules are going to be the ones trying to come up with the exception to the rule.
It's going to be that great gaslighting that, like, Mitch McConnell's like, oh, we know we'll put a Supreme Court candidate during an election year, except when the Republicans are wanting to put theirs in. It's like, well, I meant that the party in power can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep moving the goal line there, Mitch. Maybe Mitch will be up. I wonder if Mitch will get beat up. They're going to beat him up. Oh, they're not going. He's not going to be there. All right, entertainment purposes only. RNC.
What's the energy around the RNC?
July 15th, 2024. It's going to be different.
That's a different perspective.
Very different than any normal RNC.
And that makes sense because, like I just said, the traditional Republicans are going to try and find a creative way of trying not to nominate Trump, and they're going to have to look at it from a different perspective.
And I think, the low energy on the hanged man is throwing people under the bus. So there's going to be arguments that we need to select Nikki Haley. We need to look at things differently. And throwing Donald Trump under the bus because he's a felon and he's crazy, and we can't have that. Versus the Trumpers calling these guys rhinos and throwing them under the bus, and how dare they move away from Republican tradition.
I'm going to be really, really disappointed if the Five of Wands does not make an appearance.
Okay, and crossing that is the World card. The world's going to see it, and it's going to bring things to a conclusion. So they will choose their candidate, but I think this is probably the end of the Republican Party as we know it, with the devil card underneath.
Of course.
Because
who are you going to chain yourself to, right?
Yeah. I think at this point, the traditional conservatives will basically say we're out. They'll try and get through the election with Trump being the nominee, and when Trump doesn't get in, whether he flees the country or
if he doesn't win
the
election,
event, I think that's when you finally see the split in the Republican Party, because there's no reason for them to stay together.
Right, exactly.
They've lost power, they've lost influence, and some are going to go the way of George Conway and Liz Cheney, and others are going to go the way of the Freedom Caucus and the MAGA caucus, if you want to call them that, Putin caucus.
We'll finally have the Uniparty.
Yeah, and then of course the Uniparty will be here. And the whole reason why there's a brawl is because Donald Trump and the breaking of all social norms. In the past, you had the Eight of Wands. There's messaging here. Basically, we can see this coming. There have been with the polls, because those are polls, right?
Yeah, but
the polls showing that the party isn't unified. When folks go to vote, there's 10 to 20% people protest voting, writing in Nikki Haley, even though she suspended her campaign back in March. They know it's coming. The storm is coming. They can see it coming, and it's coming quickly. Current situation is the Temperance card. There's going to be peacemakers trying to figure out a way to keep the calm, to keep the Republican Party together.
And follow that little path to victory.
That's right. They see the wisdom in unification, that they've got to keep the Republican Party united through this. But, there are tempers that temperance needs to temper.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
And I don't think...
I mean, they're trying to show a united front, but
But guess what?
There's a tough
fighting.
battle ahead. Yeah.
There is fighting. Neither side wants to compromise to the other side because they have totally different visions of the Republican Party and the United States and who's to lead it. I believe that some Republicans understand that Trump is not a pro-democratic or pro-democracy type leader.
Definitely not. Definitely not pro-constitution.
That is a fancy way of saying he's a freaking dictator, and they know he's a dictator. Lesson to be learned is the Page of Pentacles. I don't even know where to begin with that. Is that money or values? Oh, you know what it is? It's they're talking about their values. They're talking about, Republican values. What do Republicans stand for? Well, there's a small problem. The Republicans don't have a platform.
No.
If they had a platform, they'd have something to provide stabilization.
Yes, something they could hold out and show to the public. Yeah. Here's our values. This is what we stand for.
Or even in the convention, they're not working on the same agreements, the same platform. It's like, what is our platform? We're going to be, strong military, tough on crime, pro-Israel, anti-Iran, pro-life, whatever. And then you can explain how Nikki Haley's better for these or Donald Trump is better for these. They don't even have that. It's whatever Donald Trump wants is their platform, which is not exactly a great way of doing things.
So I guess their platform would be the pro-revenge platform.
Yeah. The outcome, I didn't get the Hillbilly Brawl card here. The outcome is the Ten of Cups. Now, this card for many readers represents the Republican Party. They're the happy family. They put on the good face.
Yeah.
They keep all the ugliness behind closed doors. But I think what you have here is the splitting of the parties into two different groups.
I wonder which one would be MAGA in this case. Would the MAGA be the adults in the room or the little children in the room?
The children of the future, though, is MAGA the future.
Oh.
Regardless, I think you're going to see a distinct split. I could be completely and utterly wrong. They could go in there and just come out unified.
Well, that would explain the 10 of Cups there.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy. They're celebrating. Yay!
We did it.
We nominated
we all agreed. I don't think that's going to happen. I think, they might come out with their candidate and they might try and show unity with it. But there's definitely at least two different factions in there. I think the adults in there are the ones that win, and that's going to probably be your Freedom Caucus, your MAGAs, and your evangelicals.
No one's ever accused them of being adults. What is the negative energy on the Ten of Cups?
Opposite of that, the discordant family, the broken family.
Doesn't that seem to make a lot more sense for that reading?
Yeah.
Do you think it's the low energy of that?
Look at the House. Yeah, of course it is. Look at the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives tells you everything you need to know about the Republican Party because they get elected every 2 years. So they're much more a closer snapshot to where the Republican Party is right now. And they have a couple seat majority in the House, and they're about evenly split between MAGA, Trump supporters, Freedom Caucus supporters for Trump, and basically what they refer to as the Putin Party versus what one might call a traditional Republican.
Now, the trick is going to be is what do the Republicans show to the outside world versus what's actually happening behind those closed doors?
Yeah. What does the outworld? Let's see what the outside world sees with the Republicans. It's a 4-carder. Working on values, working on money, fundraising. Yeah. What do we got? Oh, we got the nightmare
scenario,
stress, the world card, and the celebration, and the Six of Swords. I think it's going to be a tumultuous. There's going to be a lot of undercurrent of anxiety and stress that's happening here. I'm curious if they're going to let reporters in there. I would be really curious if they tell the reporters to leave, and then they generate their own press.
Well, certainly. I mean, that's kind of why I asked the question, is because that 10 of Cups was really kind of throwing me, because unless you're going to look at the low energy of it, I think what they're going to do is they're going to come out of this convention and say, hey, everything's great. We were all united behind Trump or Haley, whoever comes out of that. Let's just assume it's Trump for now, because he is leading. He is the leading candidate, right? He's got the delegates. They're going to come out and put a big smiley face on it, just like how Mitch McConnell and all the senators and congressmen rallied around Trump and gave him a big hug and a kumbaya. Well, we know for a fact that they're fighting like cats and dogs behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And to me, that's more of what my intuition is telling me, which is why I want to know what are we going to see as the public. And I think the cards are kind of suggesting that they're going to continue to show that bright, shiny, happy celebration face to the outside world. Yeah. But inside, it's a nightmare scenario.
It's like Facebook. You see all the good pictures, but none of the
that's one of those Facebook things where the more someone goes on and on about how wonderful their partner is and what an amazing partner they've got, it's probably inversely proportional to how actually strong their marriage or relationship is.
Yeah, I think in this one, I think they're going to really try to control the information that's going out to the world, to try and paint it as a unified party. But I also suspect enough information will get out that will paint a completely different picture.
Yeah, it's like we were talking earlier when all the Congress were around him saying, yay, Trump, we're all a united party. And then the businessmen come out going, oh my God, the guy couldn't put two coherent sentences together or stay on a thought. You've got two very different set of information coming out.
Okay, hang on for a second. All right, we're back. Sorry, Michelle was taking sandwich orders.
We were taking lunch orders here. We don't have Kitten here to tell us it's time to eat.
And we don't have a Ford Popular to let us know when it's time for Mrs.
Mr.
Norris.
and Mrs. Brian Norris's Ford Popular, of course.
To help us make sandwiches.
There's a Monty Python reference.
Exactly. For the Python fans out there, that's an obscure one, and you're probably chuckling, both of you.
At least now there's four of us chuckling.
Exactly. Now the four of us are laughing. All right. So Mrs. Norris is going to go make sandwiches, and I was going to ask. So we asked how the outside world sees it. How did the Republicans see the convention? Same spread, but from the internals as opposed to the externals. Okay. 5 of coins being left out in the cold. Folks aren't listening. They're not listening to each other.
Yep.
And I think that whatever choice they make, the other side feels like you've thrown this election.
Yep.
There's the decision being made, one person being welcomed in, the other person being kicked out. I got the Magician card underneath it, and the Page of Cups with the Queen of Wands. Okay, so action was taken. It might be that Nikki Haley might be the decider to say, I withdraw my name for consideration. There's like a big argument over it, but by doing that, she's doomed the Republican Party. They're trying to manifest a candidate, but it's a 60-40 split in that party. And it just, there's no there. Mm-hmm. And you've got bringing in the new candidate and the Looney Tunes, the Kool-Aid drinkers are the ones that are going to win on this one.
Yep. Yeah, someone had had noted in the comments that they really are unhappy that we take a nice joyous card like the Four of Wands and we always call it the prison card.
Yeah.
But it's really kind of
call it what it is. They're not happy.
You're looking at the picture and interpreting, and in this case, it really can be. There's always that threat of prison with Trump.
Yeah.
And that the happy celebrating couple outside, that could be either in those prison walls or outside those prison walls. Um, I'm sorry for taking a happy, uplifting card and throwing kind of a downer message on it. But yeah, I tend to agree with you. Looking at this spread, it looks to me like MAGA's going to kind of come out on top on this.
Give me an example. Just throwing it out there. Let's say I was asking, hey, is this couple going to get married?
Yes.
Here's the marriage card. They've gotten married, but here's the problem. This is like one of those Facebook couples where everything looks good on paper, but they're kind of immature.
It's a crazy train underneath it.
And they're in for a lot of heartache, a lot of financial heartache, because maybe the families aren't supporting them, or they're young and they don't have much money.
Yeah, they're not taking their responsibilities seriously.
And so, did they really think this thing through? Did they look down the road and say, this is the wise choice? No, we got married when we were 18. Maybe it would have been wiser to wait till we were 22 before we got married, type of thing. But yeah, I mean, you could throw that. That doesn't mean it's like, oh my God, this guy's going to prison. He could be. But it really does depend on who I'm reading.
Yeah, I think my takeaway is they're going to come up with a creative solution. There's going to be a creative solution that occurs within that party. Because the Wands is also about creativity and different ideas. So as well as passion.
Passion.
So there could be, there's certainly passion in that group.
Yeah.
So they might have to be creative in order to present that happy family 10 of Cups card for all of us to see. All rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah. I can see the Cups creativity. Just also gaslighting.
Yeah, also known as
gaslighting. There's gonna be a metric a shit ton of gaslighting coming out from them. What do you mean we didn't fight? As they're all sporting shiners and bloody noses and things like that. We all walked into the same door.
Exactly.
Okay. What's the future of the Republican Party
post-election?
Post-election.
Okay. Fair enough.
Just a little.
Will I have a party post-election?
I think. Who's going to inherit the GOP?
Me. I've got a shed in the backyard. They can sleep there.
Okay, what's going to happen with the GOP post-election? We have the Sun card. Truth is going to be celebrate. Well, truth is going to be revealed.
Yep.
It's going to be a brand new day.
Oof.
I would say it's going to be the end of that brand new day.
I think that's kind of the end of the current Republican Party.
Yeah, they're liberated from having to support this guy.
Yeah, the cycle is finally over.
Yeah, you've got that.
That's a good spread there.
Yeah. Okay. So there's going to be truth, and it's going to be based on passions and emotions and stuff like that. Underneath, it's kind of like, what was the best call for the party? It's almost like this party had a great run. Mm-hmm. They did a lot of things. They had a lot of value, but it got taken for granted. Or at some point, the money became more important than the happiness.
Yes.
They lost their message. And it's basically their downfall. Literally in 2016, they lost their way. They lost their way before that.
Yeah, it was going off the path.
But it fell off the bridge.
They were running the 8 of Cups in 2012 too.
Yeah, and they need to reevaluate their values. There's just a contemplation of this party doesn't work anymore. This coalition doesn't work anymore. And they need to reevaluate their values and figure out what their values are, because they're emotionally exhausted, and they've emotionally exhausted their supporters.
Yeah.
And it could very well be that some of these folks just pick up their marbles and go. We're not voting for you anymore. The evangelicals or the MAGA's like, we're not voting for you anymore. We're done. We're gone. You can have your business conservatives, in your party, whatever it is. I'm really curious who's going to inherit the name, or if they're going to flush the name down the toilet. The GOP and Republican Party, it's going to be a damaged brand. Would you rather? So here's the question for you.
Yeah.
Would you rather in 2025? Would you want to be a Republican, or would you want to be, especially if the MAGA faction's controlling the Republican Party, and or
well,
would
they
you want to
kind
be,
of do,
or
really.
would you want to be part of the Liz Cheney, George Conway, Adam Kinzinger?
Yeah, if they form like their
They
own.
formed the Lincoln. They formed the Lincoln.
Yeah,
Party.
the Lincoln Party. Yeah, I would definitely.
Yeah, you join the Lincoln Party, and and if and let's say the MAGA folks and the evangelicals leave and they form the Patriot Party.
Yeah, the Patriot Party, sure.
Okay, would you still want to be part of the GOP, or do you think that name forever in history is going to be like the Nazis?
No, I would stay with the GOP because it's more of a mindset, because even over time in history, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have kind of swapped ends. There's a video out there that's great, where it's like the real truth about the Democrat Party.
Yeah, don't get hung up on the name Democratic Party or the Republican Party. The party is what the party is the mindset.
Yeah, the platforms
of the people that support them.
Right. So we have a family friend whose father is of color, but he's a very staunch Republican, very conservative, and he sent me this video because he knows I'm Republican. He doesn't realize I am way towards the center, sometimes stepping left of center in the Republican side. So he was sending me this video, which was kind of a hit piece, right? And it was about how the Republicans were the good guys, or the Democrats were the bad guys, and how the Republicans supported, the anti-slavery and all this other stuff going through the years.
Right.
But what the video fails to sort of acknowledge is that the party platforms have changed.
Yeah.
When we were going to school, the Civil War was not about Republicans and Democrats. It was North versus the South.
Yeah.
The Southern Democrats were the ones that were in support of slavery.
Yep.
And it was the progressive Republicans in the North that were anti-slavery. Well, if you were going to say who's progressive these days and who's conservative, the parties have flipped. They've completely flipped over.
I've got a friend who just doesn't buy into that, even though I was sending him links to Heather Cox Richardson, who many of you know is a historian who has documented, her amongst many others, talked about how the ideology flipped, and they can even sort of trace it through time, how it flipped like that. But carry on.
Yeah. So in this case, would I stick with the Republican Party if MAGA branched off and formed the Patriot Party? Yeah, because it's still the party that is closer to my value set.
Now, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
As from a marketing point of view, and I'm sure you've taken a marketing class.
Yes, I've taken many.
Would you say that the GOP brand may be tarnished, and it might be better to come up with a new brand name to express this new party and this new ideology, so that you distance yourself from, just like we had Whigs and Tories at some point over here, which don't exist anymore. Should the Republican Party die and be rebranded as
they may have to
Lincoln Party?
They may totally have to rebrand.
The simple way for his long rant, just look to see who's flying the Confederate flags.
Yes, exactly. There was a reaction video to that where there's I forget which channel it was. It's a black gentleman that does reaction videos, but he's very thoughtful and very well thought out, and he's actually agreeing with everything that this video is saying about the Democrat and Republican parties.
Because it's history. It's true.
Yeah, you can't argue history, right? But he's also pointing out that, well, yes, this is all factually true, but he's also acknowledging that there's more to this story, and he adds some commentary and some background information that the makers of this hit piece video were purposely leaving out.
Yeah, it started flipping in the late 1920s with the Depression.
Yeah,
and then with FDR New Deal, Eisenhower through there, but it really flipped with the Southern strategy with Nixon.
Yeah,
and reaching out to the evangelicals and the Dixiecrats and bringing them into the Republican fold. And Barry Goldwater Jr. warned the party about bringing in the evangelicals, because They think they're doing God's work, and how do you compromise with God?
Yeah.
You can't. No, it's like you're dealing with fanatics at that point, and he saw that coming. He saw that coming that freight train coming a mile away, and that's pretty much what happened. Which is why they've got Dear Leader, the authoritarian leader, leading that party, and it's completely immoral.
Yeah, the ironic part of it, right? So I think that's what we got for you.
I think so too. I think we padded this one out enough.
Yeah, we got it up to half an hour. Woo!
That was not the intent. Gotta finish the thought, because again, it's not just enough to throw cards and say, "Oh yeah, here's what's going to happen." It's also understanding the history and everything that's going on, and how things will play out, because that'll give you the cards give you insight, but that insight is supposed to support the knowledge that you bring to it, so that you've got that insight means something and you can apply it, and then you can look at things as they go forward. Again, I've got a friend who's like, it's like, well, I don't buy that. So I don't care if you buy it or not. That's what happened. You may not like it, but yeah, the parties flip values. Yeah. Don't believe me? Who's flying the Confederate flags?
Yeah, exactly.
It's Southern pride.
Oh, no, man, that
stop.
made sense when we were like in high school. And stupid, right?
I gave him that out. It's like, yeah, it's like, I get why you're thinking that, because you listen to Leonard Skinner, and you've got that on there, and you've got the Dukes of Hazzard with the General Lee, and it was being whitewashed as a Southern pride thing. So I get why that is, but that's being naive. TV doesn't have to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
That's not, and all those Southern statues and everything like that, it was in response to civil rights marches and stuff like that. This whole Southern pride thing didn't exist until Martin Luther King was trying to get blacks equal rights, and then there was that inevitable pushback. Okay, thank you very much for watching this video and supporting our channel. I appreciate it.
Yes, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We review all the comments. I respond to a lot of them. So, and we really like the snarky ones. So we're going to give snark points to the really good snarky comments. So fire away.
It's up to you to keep tally of your snark points.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Have a good one, folks. We'll catch you on the next video.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.